Hello and welcome to another edition of Beyond the Hype. I'm your host, Alfred Edmond Jr., Senior Vice President and Executive Editor at Black Enterprise. And of course, every week we have something new, something interesting, something that you will find of value in our conversations as we get beyond the hype. Today we're going to talk about well-being. And well-being is a new priority, whether it's one of the priorities of people when they decide what kind of job they're going to take, where they want to work. Or whether it's deciding what their home and life like is going to be. Work-life balance has now tipped it more to the life side than the work side, not because work is not important, but we now know that well-being, if that's not taken care of, we really can't be as productive at work as we'd like to be. My guest today is the perfect person to have this conversation because his job, his role, is about well-being for a company that is branded around well-being, and that's Hyatt. In fact, this episode of Beyond the Hype is brought to you by Hyatt, and I've welcomed as my guest TJ Abrams, VP Global Wellness Experiences of Hyatt. TJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alfred. Honored to be here and excited to dig in with you today to talk about well-being.
Before we get started, though, one of the things that I've talked about over the last now almost 3 years we've been doing this show, and also at events like our Black Men Excel Summit, where we talk about leadership positions in corporate America in general, for Black men in particular, is the emerging roles of senior executive leadership. And once upon a time, there was like an operations guy, the CEO, the financial guy, and then I guess CIO kind of came into place in HR. Now we're seeing a lot of pathways of advancement because the skills and expertise and the focuses of corporations, depending on their goals, have changed and evolved. And so we're seeing, just areas of expertise at senior levels of corporate America that we didn't see 15, 20 years ago. So with that in mind, what are you being called to do as a executive at this company who's focused on global wellness experiences? What does that look like?
Yeah, Alfred. Well, first of all, I want to start out by just saying how honored at Hyatt we are to be in partnership with Black Enterprise. We know what you mean to many communities, but the African American community in particular. And as we think about who we partner with, this is one of the value partnerships that we have. But in my role, I'm accountable for delivering well-being experiences across the globe for both guests, what we call our members, our World of Hyatt members, and our customers that we serve. So anyone that we do business with on an enterprise perspective. And we are using the day-to-day interactions we have with really special brands and really special properties all around the world to help those that we serve get to a state of being healthy, happy, and fulfilled. And you can just imagine post-pandemic how important it is for a company to be really committed to the guests that they serve and what they need and how they show up every day. But from a holistic standpoint, how we step in through the variety of offerings we have across our portfolio to meet those different stakeholders.
That's really important. I can speak personally on a number of levels. First of all, I am a member of World of Hyatt. I've been a member for a long time. Obviously, I'm in a profession where even before the pandemic, I travel a lot. I traveled a lot, for conferences, for business, for public speaking. So, when you've been doing it long enough, you begin to realize that it's less about lodging. Yeah, of course, you want a clean, safe place to lay your head at the end of the day. And it's more, especially since 2020, especially since the stress and anxiety of, watching the murder of George Floyd or being isolated because of COVID and all that we experienced in 2020, I've emerged with a deeper, way deeper appreciation for feeling cared for when I go someplace, being cared for when I get on the plane, being cared for when I'm moving through an airport. And certainly by the time I get to my destination, and the destination is not just what I came to a particular city to do, that's the work. Usually your final destination is where you're going to be at the end of the day. Just like home is your final destination when you walk out the door at the beginning of the day. When you travel, at least for me, when I travel, my destination is where am I going to be at the end of the day when this work day is done. And I got to say, I was one of those people that only traveled for work before 2020.
Mm.
I didn't really travel for pleasure, rest, recovery. I got to go to nice places because of my work. So it wasn't that I didn't go places, but it was work. And I remember, TJ, sitting in my home alone for practically 2 years,
Mm.
saying, you know what, I've been taking a lot for granted. And there's a whole world out there. There's places I've never been. And, friends who know me for my long time at Black Enterprise, like, really? You really never been to Africa? Really? You never been to what? You're on the plane all the time. I say, yeah, but I'm going to Atlanta and Miami and Chicago for work. I'm not going for joy and, like I said, rest and recovery. So again, I got a very, very deep appreciation for what we're talking about, because I made a commitment to myself that, yes, I know I'm still going to travel for work, and that's great, but I'm going to travel for well-being. And,
Hmm.
and I didn't know what it would look like during the pandemic, but now my friend's saying, you always outside. You went way outside. I mean,
Yeah.
and so just talk to me about and we'll get deeper into it in the conversation, but I want to get your top line of what does that mean for you in this
Hmm.
role? What does that mean for whether it's a single mom who may have been isolated, trying to educate her children in a very difficult environment for schooling, whether you're talking about professionals or entrepreneurs who are literally shut down and trying to figure out what's going to happen, and who had really come to Jesus moments about what their life should be like, and then they come out of it, and many of them are going to walk into one of your hotels as a result of that experience with a different mindset than perhaps the one they had, pre 2020.
Yeah. Well, I feel really fortunate because I'm at a company that when I walked in, I joined last year, and I started meeting with leaders to really try to understand sort of the DNA of who we are.
Mm,
One of the things that struck me that I heard from multiple leaders was this idea of, at Hyatt, we don't just care who you are, we care how you are. I said, huh. I stepped back and thought about how that connected to our purpose, which I think we're going to get into in a conversation.
mm,
But like, if you can be a hospitality company who shows up in your service, not just caring about the loyalty, which we care very much about who you are from a loyalty
right.
standpoint, and and make sure we recognize that in very unique ways from the industry perspective, but how you are and how we provide sort of experiences and service and care and offerings to sort of meet you there. That's a really special opportunity. We're able to do that because of the diversity of the brands that we have across our mini collection. So we have over 27 brands now within our portfolio that meet a variety of needs for how people are traveling today. And in particular, uh, the real shift that's happened, Alfred, and you talked about it, sitting in your home, that happened in pandemic, is we realized that the physical needs weren't enough to sustain us in that moment.
Yes.
And we all had sort of mental and emotional needs that had to be fulfilled. And it pushed us to learn how to garden, to pick up biking, to start journaling and doing all these other things that then got us to this space of sort of holistic well-being that's really important. So I want to let you take me where you want me to go, because I can talk for days about the amazing experiences we have across our brands. But from our Thompson brand in Denver, where we're teaching people how to play the guitar with a class called Find Your Inner Rocker, to a coconut culinary classes in the Maldives, we are meeting people where they are and giving them opportunities to grow, to learn, to be restored, to connect in with people, the local people and culture and community, all which tie into real holistic well-being. And that's what makes this place special and really different from what you should expect when you travel other places.
Oh, you got me excited, man. You're right. We're going to go all over the place in this conversation, because
All over.
you're hitting all my passion points. Listen, I don't want to get too deep into the conversation before I let our audience know. I mean, they know I'm a member journalist, so I deeply research. But I noticed the cover photo on your LinkedIn profile says, "We care for people so they can be their best," which I mean, it hit me right here. I'm like, that's what I'm looking for, you know. So I mean, talk to me about how that relates to your mission and how you measure your performance against that standard.
Yeah. Well, as you may know, Hyatt is a 60 plus year company that has grown to serve across the brands that we've had. But purpose has been in our DNA from the beginning. About a little bit over 10 years ago, we relaunched our company purpose, led by our CEO, who really is the chief leader, not just our CEO, but he's the chief leader for sort of our well-being prioritization in the company. And we started making some real intentional sort of investments and thinking through how we could not just drive meaningful travel, but really transformative travel. And that started, one of the big bets that we made early on was the acquisition of the Miraval brand, which is the industry leading well-being sort of resort and hotel offering across multiple properties. But that brand in particular then inspired a ton of also growth across other partners, experiences, platforms that we've been providing that help our guests on their journey to be their best. Being your best is the aspiration, right? That we all have. But we know in each of our guest member and customer journeys, whether you're a company who's leading a team, transforming your business right now, post pandemic, or you're an individual and a couple or a family who needs a moment, we're a phenomenal partner in that part of your journey. And our World of Hyatt loyalty program actually gives our members a chance to not only to be much more than just a stay,
Mm,
right? And to connect in outside of their stay to many different experiences we offer that allow you to continue that well-being offering that we have at Hyatt into your sort of day-to-day part of your lifestyle. And Headspace, our industry-leading partnership with the Headspace application and content provider, is one just example of how we've been uniquely making access to mental and emotional health
mm,
and tools available to our guests, not just when you're in a room with us, but you have the opportunity as a part of milestone benefits through our World of Hyatt program, and also through special membership offers to actually deeply engage in tools like that, which make a difference in people's lives.
I know I can speak to a bunch of people in the Black enterprise audience because obviously, we're business people, we're entrepreneurs, we're executives, we travel a lot for obviously for our work, but also for our families and for ourselves. And it's important. Well, I think there's a renewed importance. I don't think it's that we didn't know it before, but when you travel as much as I do anyway, even the nicest hotels begin to feel a lot like you expect certain things, and it's like, okay, what city am I in again? Yep, this is a nice place to stay. And I've come to realize, and I've been I mean, I'm 36 years at Black Enterprise. I'm deep in the game. That what makes a difference for me are things like the first thing I do when I check into a hotel. You can see I'm into bodybuilding. My hobby is natural bodybuilding.
Okay.
I don't go to check my room. First place I go is to the gym. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, what do they got here?
Yeah.
And I have gyms memorized now. Like when my travel is being booked, I'm like, I know I'm staying here, but I'm not staying there because I know what they got. I think about things like, I mean, the things that seem like little things to people. Um, I was at it was a Hyatt property. I'm trying to remember which city it was, but I never told the person serving me my name, but they knew my name.
They knew your name.
They didn't have to know my name, and I would have been like, wow, they didn't call me by my name. It was in one of the restaurant properties. And so again, that feeling of being cared for, of being seen, of knowing you're not just X number of room nights, you know, um,
Yeah.
it makes a huge difference, and it's made even a bigger difference now. Now you didn't get picked for this role at random. There are things you brought to the table that made you the right person to do this with
Mm.
Hyatt. Talk about your journey to being offered this role and accepting this role, and now being in this role for the past year.
Yeah, I'll give you the high level, and then you tell me where you want to go deeper.
Mhm.
But I've been fortunate across my career of 20 plus years to work at purpose-driven companies and lead some of the most disruptive sort of innovations in the industries that I worked in at the time. So early on in my career, in early 2000s, I built the multicultural marketing department at Lowe's Home Improvement. I had a fantastic boss who was recruited from Procter and Gamble, and I was her first hire. And together we started building everything from bilingual signage to partnerships with CIAA to merchandising strategies and CRM strategies to figure out how we would meet the needs of Spanish dominant consumers and African American consumers across the country. And so I started my career at Lowe's, moved in to Coca-Cola post business school, where for 7 years I launched Coke Zero here into the food service on premise business. I led Coca-Cola, some of the biggest campaigns, FIFA World Cup campaigns, wow, Christmas charts, summer, and really had a chance to really sharpen my global brand marketing and campaign chops. But also in my last couple of years there, I went over to the global team and led the adults business, Sprite, and finally went back to brand Coke globally and really worked with some of the best not just marketers, but business leaders around the world, right? And learn how do you make money and drive real relevance at the same time in 100 plus countries, around the world, and that brand does that day in and day out, and so I'm really grateful for my time there. I then jumped into hospitality, and that's kind of how I got here. So the last 8 years, I was in hospitality. I spent 5 years at one of our competitors, leading the largest mainstream brand in the industry, Holiday Inn, and worked and launched 2 hotel brands while I was at that company. And then right before this role, I had a chance to be the CMO at a health and wellness company, a human performance company that partners not only with elite athletes, but also companies like Google, Adidas, Intel, Humana, like some of the best Fortune 100 companies. And so the combination of travel and health and wellness experience, purpose-driven company, a desire to drive real impact and innovation made this the right move at the right time for me to help Hyatt on this journey.
That's always this is part of Black Enterprise's mission in general, but certainly beyond the Hype in particular. I talk to people all the time, corporations, colleges, and universities, and I have a small army of mentees who I kind of coach along the way. And I tell them one of the challenges.
Thank you for doing. So that's important. Thank you for doing that. That mentorship is important.
Oh, thank you, bro. But one of the things that I've stressed, that one of the opportunities, but the challenges of finding your purpose and pursuing your goals as a professional, as a human being, is that unlike when I was a kid, and I'm a baby boomer, the best and most interesting jobs either are not necessarily visible to the average person, or they don't exist yet. So you couldn't have said, 20 years ago, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to be a global well-being person at a major hospitality company, because that did not exist yet. And so the challenge, and one of the reasons I am passionate about mentorship, among many reasons, is you got to figure out a way to help people be prepared for opportunities that don't exist yet, whether it only exists in their head or it exists in someone else's head. And so it's always very helpful when I have guests on the show to talk about their pathway to where they are now. And you hit on one of the major themes of what I think is key to finding your way, finding your path along the way, which is, what is the purpose? What is the golden thread that took you from this kind of company to that kind of company to that kind of company, and prepares you for the role that you're playing at Hyatt? And so it's always very informative. I always get feedback from listeners to the show to say, oh, so that's how this connects to that, and that connects to that. And this is what I might be. Instead of me looking for a particular job title, I should be looking for opportunities that align with this, and this about my skill set and my values. And that will ultimately lead me to places that maybe I didn't even imagine in my head, but is the right place for me to be. I mean, is that kind of what you experienced during the course of your career?
Yeah, of course. I mean, for me, it's always been about adding value and being a real part of every community an important part of every community that I serve in, right? And it's funny to be at a company where where our purpose is we care for people so they can be their best. Because for me, as a leader, it's always been about caring for the people in the business. The people make the business, right? And
Right.
I've uh, found ways to be a part of companies that are really investing in people, that give me the flexibility as a leader to, introduce my disruptive and creative sometimes points of view on how I mold and develop talent. But in doing that, the actually impact on not just them individually as talent, but then on our business has always been tenfold. And so I'm a big believer of making sure you really commit in to giving as much as you can. And when you give as much as you can in the organizations you're a part of, to be a full part of the community, not just your KPIs and your objectives, but how
Right.
are you supporting the culture of the company and the broader mission outside of just your role. You find that more work and good work continues to come your way to leaders like that.
I want to shift back a little bit back into this this well-being as a higher priority of work and life, and talk about a subject that's now near and dear to my heart. Wasn't always. It actually ties to my passion for fitness and natural bodybuilding, and that's this idea of rest and recovery. And I want to
Mm-hmm.
get your thoughts on it, not only as a well-being executive at Hyatt, but frankly as an African American and as an African American male. Meaning, I'll just tell you my story. One of the things that happened, I was still training during the pandemic for competition, but I was
Mm-hmm.
training with a coach for the first time, and it was
Okay.
his first year. And the coach is a longtime friend and mentor, but he at the end of a competition season, he said, "You can't go to the gym for the next 6 weeks." And I'm like, what? Because I'm almost, I won't say addicted, but I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I don't want
Listen,
any training. I don't want any cardio. I don't, not even at home. Just stop. And he's like, I'm like, well, why can't I just work out? I like working out. He was like, it's about rest and recovery. To achieve the
mm-hmm.
goals that you want to achieve in your sport at the age you are, you can't just go, 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 go. There's a reason why LeBron James doesn't play in summer leagues anymore. There's a reason, think about the Tom Brady's of the world. Rest and recovery is really important. And I took that from my physical athletic life and started applying it to the rest of my life. I was like, you know what? This idea of grind is not really the way. And I still hustle, but I don't grind anymore
Yeah.
because I want to. Rest and recovery is a thing. It's not just what you do when you're not working. It's part of your capacity to succeed. So I want to juxtapose that revelation against, I come from a working class family where we value hard work. And I come from a tradition of, as a black person, being told you got to work twice as hard, you got to outwork the other person, you got to be better than the other person, and you got to earn your rest. Or to quote a popular brand in the financial education space, and our good friends, earn your leisure. You don't deserve to rest. You have to work and earn the rest because that's somehow taken away from your commitment to production. And I had to wrestle with that, as a black person, as a black man, that not only
Yeah.
was there nothing wrong with me having rest and recovery, that actually I needed to do that as part of my long-term performance. And when I realized I was going to have this conversation with you, I just wanted to run that past you, because obviously rest and recovery, rest in particular, is a big part of all hospitality businesses. But I think there's a deeper appreciation for that, especially as black men and black people in particular wrestle with issues. And I'm happy to see for now we are actually leaning into the importance of our mental health as a community when it was a taboo topic not 5 years ago. But this idea of rest and recovery, as again, speaking to you as both as a well-being executive, but also as a hardworking black man who didn't, who put in a lot of effort to get to where he is. What is your take on all of that?
I You nailed it spot on. As you think about holistic well-being, the previous company that I was at had a philosophy that mindset, nutrition, movement, and recovery was critical to sort of how you think about the approach to driving real health, holistic health, and wellness, and recovery in particular at Hyatt is important and shows up in our brands in so many ways. So we have some of the world's leading spas, which provide restorative practices from not only the full body treatments that we have, but also to special experiences in classes, which allow you to meet both mental, physical, and emotional sort of restorative practices, and a lot of industry leading things. I mean, we're opening up um, a, a new spa in our Park Hyatt Aviara Resort in Carlsbad that is a life and balance spa, part of our Miraval, our portfolio. We've got our Park Hyatt in Marrakesh, who's partnered with Eastern Asian sort of wellness experts to have world class. So a ton of restorative, really industry leading practices at some of the our best resorts. But from a day to day standpoint, I think one of the things we miss out sometimes is how do you think about rest and recovery from a true accessible standpoint? Like, what are the day to day things that we should be doing? For me personally, I'm a runner, so I relate to what you said. I've run a couple of marathons the last 2 years, and whenever you're training, same sort of thing is you have to figure out how you diversify the activity that you're doing so that you give certain muscles and certain parts of the body the chance to recover, and you have to get true rest sometimes, which means like pausing
Yes.
and give yourself the chance to back and reflect. I bring that up because it's those simple practices are the same type of things as guests. We need people to think about is how are you diversifying the type of experiences you need in your daily, weekly, monthly sort of practices, and when are you giving yourself the chance to stop and pause, right, in your workday through partnerships that, like I mentioned, Headspace, but through tools that you may use that are relevant to you that give you a chance to pause. And we're even doing that with customers. We through our customers, we have a Together by Hyatt platform. We're bringing in experiences that are teaching people with their teams, like how to meet the diversity of your teams and where they are, but in a galvanizing way, right? And then also through the food we offer, the partnerships we have on the athletic side, and everything in between. How do we think about teaching teams the tools they need so that they're in their culture, they give people the space that then fuels the performance that they're really looking for.
You set up the great segue to the next area I want to go into. Earlier this year, I had on the show, why is his name skipping me now? It'll come back to me. But your diversity leader.
Yes, Tyrone.
Yes, Studemeyer.
Yeah,
Dude.
he's the man.
And I've been I've been in the game for a minute, so I know a little bit about diversity and all his practices over the years from my work at Black Enterprise. But he did a master class, man, a master class on what it means and how diversity is not only adopted as a quote unquote core value, which most companies say it is, but what does that mean in terms of best practices within the organization? And you're living just now without you really realizing or conscious of it. One of the things is like that everybody in their way, no matter what they do in the company, is a diversity person if you're doing it right. So yeah, you don't have a quote unquote diversity job and a diversity title, but your recognition that to be excellent at your job and to really represent what Hyatt stands for, in part because you have a global role with dealing with all types of different cultures, that if you're not a diversity person, if you will, in a certain way, you're not going to excel at what you do. And Tyrone's point is that a company that has a kind of diversity in a kind of a silo section of the company for certain activities but it's not permeated throughout the company, is not really going to get the most benefit out of it, and is not going to be effective at it. And so, I really want to get some of your insights. I mean, you've been a Hyatt, long enough to really, like I said, you're ambassador for the culture, not just someone who lives within the culture, to talk about, Hyatt's DEI and how that informs not just those who practice it specifically as part of their role, but how the whole company operates. And again, you got to deal and throughout your career, learn to figure out how do you, master culture, belonging, relevance, inclusion in ways that go beyond what I'm going to call the right thing to do aspect of it. I mean, it is the
Yeah.
right thing to do, but Tyrone's point was that companies that really get it understand that it's part of the operational objectives of the company, not just a right thing to do.
Well, it sounds like Tyrone nailed it, and it landed with you, because you just said what it is for us. I mean, we have a DEI built into our operational framework as a business, right? It is not a siloed function. From day one, when we talked about expanding well-being globally, DEI was a part of that sort of mission, and he and I have been great partners in already thinking through new experiences, activations, offering, but with the right lens. But for us, we have a industry leading program called Change Starts Here.
Yes.
For us, Change Starts Here, which I'm sure he spoke about, uh, uh, is focused on three specific areas: who we employ, and how we develop and support the people internally within our company, who we support, and the type of partners we have to further sort of the DEI agenda and our leadership point of view across all segments and opportunities for us, and then who we do business with. And that's really important, right, for us as a hospitality company with many vendor relationships across everything from our culinary business to things you wouldn't even expect that are required to actually deliver a hotel experience. How we think about ensuring that we have access and inclusion sort of in all of our business practices. So change starts here. We're really proud of the impact. I believe our impact report and updates are available and accessible online, but it's built into our practices. And for me in particular, if we think about well-being, we've been very intentional about making sure that our best of the best, so Miraval's, Alila's, Zoetry, the Impression brands, some of these high-end wellness brands actually have an offering that is attractive, accessible, meaningful, and built with sort of insights on how to serve the customers that are most important to us. I will just call out one unique partnership we have through the Miraval brand with Dr. Alfie. She is a phenomenal mental health sort of advocate and leader and professional, and she through our Miraval brand has helped us deliver a number of experiences specifically for the African American community, from podcasts she's been a part of, but she's really integrated into our full business. And really, I'm personally thankful for our Miraval brand and their leadership in identifying partners like that in the industry who can help us better serve the customers and guests that come into our doors every day.
One of the things, and again, I have a lot of, and have over the decades, a lot of both on the record and off the record conversations with executives such as yourself, both inside the traditional diversity roles like Tyrone plays, but more outside, because it's like they could tell me about the lived experiences that do or do not result from the policies and the values propositions that the companies that they work in, espouse. And one of the things that have come to appreciate, and sometimes companies will ask us at Black Enterprise for advice, and I always tell them that usually you want to look at those companies that have nowhere to hide, the Hyatts, the McDonald's. If you're really consumer facing, people can see whether what you're saying in terms of diversity in this case is real or not. It's not like you're, I don't know. Like a tech company that's just not consumer facing. You know them through their products. You don't know them through their people. And I said there's a reason why those companies tend to be best at it, because they are actually on a stage where what they say and what they do can be compared.
That's the match. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm always telling people, listen, again, a lot of companies either came to the DEI space brand new post 2020 because of what happened in 2020, or even if they were in it before, they weren't leaning into it, and so they were like coming to Black enterprise, not just Black enterprise. There's other experienced diversity practitioners. I'm sure people came to Tyrone and said, okay, my company's finally serious about this. How do I do this? And again, this idea that there are examples to look to, because they're like, no, we have to get this right. This is not, we hope to get this right. We have to get this right. And so, again, when I see you in your role and what you do, you are professionally a great representation of the things that Tyrone talked about on Beyond the Hype. When I was like, dude, I thought I knew it all about this space that you took me to school, So listen, as we come down the home stretch, right? You said that you're a runner. As I've talked to Black executives, obviously all the time, and on this show since 2020, and more than one of them made the case that the same trauma, if you will, that we were coping with among our employees and among our consumers, we were living it too, because this is us. And so I always spend some time in my interviews talking about your own self-care. Like, it's, we do work, even when we're not grinding. It still takes work, it still takes sacrifice. And and so what does rest and recovery mean or look like for TJ when TJ has a hard day, when TJ doesn't feel like it anymore, when TJ is tired or stressed or frustrated? What do you do for your own rest and recovery?
Yeah, I want to hit that in two angles, both the professional and the personal side, because at Hyatt we're fortunate to have diversity business resource groups, and I like to share that these groups are so important, because for me, growing up developing in my career, I remember some of the first times that I felt seen in a company was the moments that I had to actually be a part of communities and to create communities in diversity business resource groups. And so those communities within business and operations, like the one we have at Hyatt, really were important points for me in my workday to feel connected in with people and with leaders and with events that allow me to step back and truly get that sort of rest and recovery outside of my day-to-day sort of deliverables as a leader within an organization. Outside of work, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a board member to a number of nonprofits. My passion is my family and being as present as I can with the work that they're doing. Last year, I had the opportunity. It was a true gift, honestly, to sort of take a leap of faith and coach my daughter's soccer team. I found that to be way more fulfilling than I ever expected. I always thought I was a parent that would be writing checks for end of the year, or end of season celebrations, and showing up with great snacks that everybody loves, but never thought I would like jump into actually coaching, and found that really fulfilling for me, which is a part of well-being and recovery. And then I also do a ton of work in the education space. I've got a passion for closing the equity gaps that exist inner city. I'm a product of DC and DC public schools, and I know what it means to be able to see the things that the people and the places that you want to actually be and go. And so for me, I partner with transformative organizations nonprofits who are trying to close that gap. I'm on education space, and that balance and me being able to be my whole person, a whole person outside of work and inside of work through the community that we built, really helps to keep me going day after day after day.
Yeah, man, that's powerful. It hits a theme that I've said it's kind of a golden thread for those people who are driven by purpose, but also know that to serve that purpose, they got to have outlets for restoration. They got to have outlets for passion. They got to have outlets for fun. That's like, now fun is a requisite. I got to figure out how I'm going to have fun every day. And then what you said earlier, and again, these are areas I'm still growing in. You use the word, we say the word sabbatical, and we think of, someday I'm going to get to a space where I'm just going to take a year off. And, I'm a Christian believer, so I read the Bible every day. But no matter how
Mm-hmm.
often you read it, you learn stuff you didn't read. You read the same thing over and over again. You get into Revelations. So I was reading it maybe a year ago, and I can't remember. I'm not somebody who memorizes chapters and verses, but there was a revelation that said you're really supposed to take off basically for every 6 hours you work, an hour break, for,
Hmm.
which actually fits what many efficiency and productivity experts recommend. That you don't just stare at your computer for hours on end. You take X number of minutes away from off the screen for every 20 minutes or hour you spend on the screen. And it was like, this rest and recovery thing. Again, if I sound like I'm like almost obsessed with it, it's because I am. Because I was like,
No,
you know,
let me I'll just add,
yeah,
there are many mindful meeting practices and things that we're partnering with companies to ensure you're driving the productivity of employees. But one of many things that I talk about is just like 2 hours is too much. As we think about meetings, and there's real science behind what happens to the brain after sort of 90 minutes of like active sort of engagement. And so I'm uh, I'm constantly encouraging internally and in our business partners as we think about the practices that we have for our meetings and events is how do we make sure that you infuse the right breaks, no more ideally within 60 minutes, but definitely no more than sort of 90 minutes that allow people to recover so that then you can get back to the state of flow where you're optimizing sort of what people can contribute in a given state. So you're right, there's science and real support and tools out there to help people, our guests, and then companies like think about how to infuse rest and recovery into their day.
and I will say this: I've been living the Zoom, if you will, remote work life since 2015, before the pandemic, when I stepped down as chief content officer of Black Enterprise and took on my current role in order to have a more flexible work life. So, what the lifestyle of the pandemic, I was living in a way before the pandemic, minus the isolation. That wasn't part of my life. But I was sharing this with one of my mentees yesterday. One of the good outcomes of Zoom meetings was that during that say 2+ years that most of your meetings were Zoom, you knew the meeting was going to end. Like there wasn't like we're going to sit here on this computer for hours on end because the Zoom meeting is going to end. That means people came
Yeah.
ready, you got it done, you logged off, and you went to the next meeting. And I don't know about you, but at Black Enterprise, that has spilled over into our culture, so that now even when we're having in-person meetings, the former Black Enterprise culture where you could be in a meeting for 2 hours, 2.5, 3 hours, because once you're in there and you're comfortable, people just keep going. But we have now really kind of gotten conditioned in part because even our in-person meetings are usually a mix of some people physically being there and other people, zooming in, if you will. That there's a lot more discipline around how long does this meeting really need to last, and is it going to be over when we say? The other thing is that it took us a while, I think, to learn it, and then when I say us, all of us, that you really can't do these meetings back to back. Like there needs to be like a 15 to 30 minute gap. You can't do just this like 90-minute meetings, six in a day, and expect real productivity and expect real focus. And so I think we learned a lot. People could say we learned it the hard way, but I would argue that most of our best lessons are experiential. And as long as we survive it, then it was worth it. But yeah, so I just think the work that you're doing, yes, specifically for Hyatt, but what the kind of work you're doing in general, it has positive impacts that go beyond, obviously, like you said, the KPIs of this particular, hospitality hotel company to what we can really learn and what I think the Black Beyond the Hype audience is going to can learn or take away from how we approach our lives and our careers in general.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any final thoughts, is there something you want to make sure nobody forgets if they don't remember everything we talked about? What would be something you would definitely want to leave this conversation with when all is said and done?
Yeah, no, thanks for that. Well, first of all, again, thanks to Black Enterprise. We are just really honored to be in partnership with you. And on a personal note, like I remember growing up as a young man, and I came from humble beginnings, but I remember Black Enterprise was one of those magazines that came into the house on a regular basis, right? And so for decades, we thank you for just what you've done for the African American community and for the industry as a whole. Uh, uh, as it relates to Hyatt, we are a company that is continuing to live our purpose, right? And our purpose is to help people, to care for people so they can be their best. And I think through the modern sort of point of view that we have on travel and helping people to live well so that they truly have the experiences that offer them the opportunity to walk day to day into their purpose and to being their best is what you'll experience with us. So hopefully, your listeners and your viewers will have a chance to check us out. I have a program called Find for our World of Hyatt members. You can go to hyatt.com/find or experiences.hyatt.com and get access to over 300 plus experiences that we have available around the world as World of Hyatt members. So many special opportunities across both the platforms like Find that we have and our 27 plus brands that allow your listeners and your viewers to be a part of our World of Hyatt.
And if members of our audience want to continue to watch you, follow your work, what's the best way for them to do that?
LinkedIn. I'm active on LinkedIn.
Yes,
I love sharing.
I can vouch. Yes.
Yep. I love sharing, connecting in with people through there. So you can find me at TJ Abrams on LinkedIn.
TJ, I knew I was going to enjoy this conversation just because of what we're going to be talking about, but I can also say I enjoyed the person with whom I had the conversation. Thank you so much for being my guest on Beyond the Hype.
Thank you, Alfred.
Well, you know how we do. Another great edition of Beyond the Hype. This episode of Beyond the Hype was brought to you by Hyatt. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr., Senior Vice President and Executive Editor at Black Enterprise. And you know I mean it. Take care of yourself. Be well. Bye-bye.